Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to Chico in California, which many of you might know is home to the legendary Sierra Nevada Brewing Company. And this was a beer that just came out in the small porters here in Sweden on the 18th of November. So really looking forward to this one. This is one of the regular beers that they do that I've never actually tried before, so this should be a bit of a beast. We're going to have a taste of the Narwhal, which is their Imperial Stout tonight, and this one comes in at 10.2%, so it should be really nice. It was 99 overall on Rate Beer and 91 within the style, but as we know, Sierra Nevada very rarely produce a bad beer, so definitely looking forward to this one, and I hope you guys enjoy the review as well. So anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other Sierra Nevada reviews I've done before. No doubt there will be more in the near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do subscribe to the channel. The whole channel uses a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city or state, whatever you're interested in. There are playlists of the beers from different countries, sake reviews and whiskey review things that you can check out. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. Always interesting to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and your support of the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Sierra Nevada then. So this company was founded back in 1979 in Chico, California, when the founders Ken Grossman and Paul Camusi decided to expand their home brewing hobby into a fully professional brewery. And these guys, like I said, are considered one of the pioneering craft breweries over in America. So Ken Grossman actually learned to homebrew at a very young age. In 1972, he went on a cycling trip with some friends in the northeast of California, stopping off in Chico to visit some childhood friends who were studying in the California State University there. And while he was on this trip, he said that he really fell in love with the town and the culture and decided to move there. So in 1976, he opened up the homebrew supply store, which was called the Home Brew Shop, and he and fellow home brewer Paul Camusi really got deeper into their craft brewing hobby. So in 1979, the pair founded a small-scale brewery with the name taken from Ken Grossman's love of hiking in the nearby Sierra Nevada mountains, and they created their first brewing equipment mainly out of recycled dairy equipment, and they actually made a lot of it themselves, and they finally completed it in 1980. So in 1983, Sierra Nevada opened their portfolio with 3 beers. This is the Pale Ale, which really is a cult classic of American brewing, the Porter and the Stout, and they also produced the 10% Bigfoot Ale, which really is considered by many drinkers in America to be a cult classic. It's one of the first examples of kind of extreme brewing, if you like. But in 1984, they purchased a new 100-barrel copper kettle from Germany, but they actually couldn't afford to install it for another 3 years. So in 1987, they purchased the plot on 20th Street, and that was what was going to house this 100-barrel kettle. And this location has been the home of the brewery ever since. And in 1989, they opened the doors to their now famous tap room on the site of the brewery. So the company actually produced their first wet hop harvest ale in 1993, and that same year they also hit the 100,000 barrel of beers brewed mark, or every year I think they were producing that. But the brewery further expanded in 1997, unveiling a new 200-barrel Hoopman brewhouse with the coppersmiths who made the original 100-barrel kettle coming out of retirement from Germany to produce this. But Camusi actually retired in 1998 and sold his share of the brewery to Grossman, and that year they also added a 350-seater auditorium. That was a few years later, actually in the year 2000. But they also built a beer research lab with the exact scale dimensions of the main brewhouse in 2005 as well. So even though these guys are such a big operation, they do put a lot of time and effort into researching and producing different beers. You see that they produce new things all the time. But in 2008, the brewery introduced an event which they called Beer Camp, and this was where restaurant and bar owners could come to the brewery and get a hands-on experience of brewing. And this has really become a very regular event. Every year you'll see them producing a few different Beer Camp beers, which are really good actually. I've reviewed a couple of them for you on the channel. But the company also celebrated their 30th anniversary in 2010, and since then they've had a partnership with the Abbey of New Clairvaux in Northern California, where they've been producing Trappist style ales, although the Abbey isn't officially recognised or certified by the International Trappist Association, so they can't say officially these are Trappist beers. They can only say they are Trappist style beers. But they also now have a second brewery over in Mills River, North Carolina on the East Coast, and they also opened their Torpedo Room tasting room in Berkeley, California. I think that was 2012 or 2013 they opened that. But interestingly as well, this brewery is powered by solar energy since 2007, and they actually won the award for Green Business of the Year from the US Environmental Protection Agency in 2010, and 99.5% of their solid waste is actually diverted from landfill. They use biodiesel in their delivery trucks, and they also sell the excess grain to cattle ranchers and stuff like that as well. But they've had the same head brewer since 1983, when they were producing 25 to 30 barrels of beer a week, and this meant that there was about 1,300 to 1,500 barrels of beer, and now the production is nearly 800,000 barrels of beer per year. So these guys are one of the biggest craft breweries in America. I've got a feeling they might actually be the biggest craft brewery. And then I think it's New Belgium actually. So this is a really good brewery. You know, they're very, very pioneering, and if you haven't tried some of their beers, you really do need to, because these are the kind of cult classics of American brewing, along with the likes of Anchor Brewing Company from San Francisco. So yeah, that's all you need to know about the brewery just now. The brewery's kind of core range of beers, they have the Pale Ale, the Porter, the Stout, the Torpedo, which is lovely by the way, one of my favourite beers, and they also have the Keller Weiss Hefeweizen. And they do have other things that are fairly regular, such as the Bigfoot, and then this one here as well. So just try some of their beers, pick a style you enjoy, and I'm pretty sure you will enjoy what comes out of the bottle. So yeah, that's enough about the brewery just now. We'll just read the little blurb on the back there. It says, this one is inspired by the mysterious creature that dwells in the deepest Arctic seas. Narwhal Imperial Stout is a midnight black and bold with notes of baker's cocoa and dark roasted coffee. This massive Imperial Stout is incredibly complex and explores the darkest depth of malt flavour. We brew in Chico, California and Mills River, North Carolina to bring you the finest quality beer. It doesn't say on here. I think this one might have been produced in California actually, because it does have a California sign. I've had a couple of them that have come from Mills River actually, but there's nothing on the bottle that distinguishes what brewery they actually come from. So yeah, I'll just let you have a little quick look at the artwork of this one. So this one has quite an interesting base to it as well. There you can see the nice narwhal with its horn there. Of course, that's the distinctive feature of this card. You can see it's actually labelled with 2016, so this one is a kind of a seasonal beer, and it's got a different bottle cap on it as well. There you can see it actually says Narwhal there. So yeah, very nicely presented, and it's the kind of typical style of artwork that you would expect from Sierra Nevada. So just to read you the specs of this beer before we open it up, as I said, it's a 10.2% Imperial Stout. It's hot with Magnum and Challenger, and it has a malt base of 2-row pale, caramel, chocolate, honey and carafa malts with some roasted barley, and the ale strain in this one is a US ale yeast. So yeah, let's get this guy open then and we'll get on with the tasting. Really looking forward to trying this one, because it's one of the few Sierra Nevada beers that I've not managed to try before. So yeah, nice smoky opening on this one, and we'll get it out and into the glass. And I tell you something, it really does smell quite sweet as you're pouring it out. Oh yeah, that looks absolutely lovely. So yeah, as you can see, this beer is poured exactly as you would expect from an Imperial Stout. You've got a nice dark ebony rosewood colour to this one. There's a bit of a ruby tinge to it. I'm not sure how well you can see that on the camera. If I put my fingers behind it, there's a little bit of transparency, but just because the beer is so dark in colour, there's not much you can see of that. There's a half finger of a frothy beigey tan head on this one, but that's just fading away to be a very thin foamy layer. But overall it looks very nice, exactly what you would expect from an Imperial Stout. So let's have a look at the aroma then. But as I said, you can smell some of the nice sweet chocolate. There's a little bit of a kind of figgy aroma coming off it as well, without paying too much attention. But let's look at it more closely. Yeah, it actually smells quite bready. There's a good bit of a sort of brown bready malt to this one, but you can smell some of the black malts. There's an almost kind of smooth coffee aroma coming out of this one. If you take it in a bit more deeply, you can smell some of the milky chocolate, and there's some toasted sort of brown sugars coming out of this one. It doesn't really smell sweet and caramelly. It's more, there's a big earthy element to the aroma on this one as well. There's a big kind of earthy hoppy character coming out of it. Yeah, you can definitely say that about this beer. It does smell really, really nice. So just take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of this beer before you get stuck into it. You can smell a little bit of a red fruity character, but there's a definite, really for me, the aroma in this beer is definitely earthy. It's earthy. The coffee is mixing in with that, which is quite nice. It makes an interesting combination. But you've got some sweet chocolate, a good bit of toasted caramel in there. Earthy hops, like I say. There's maybe a little bit of a grassiness coming out of this one as well. The two hops that are in this beer, the Magnum and the Challenger, they do have a bit of, I think both of those hops have a kind of German heritage actually, but they have been kind of crossbred in America and things, or they can be grown in both countries. The Magnum particularly, I think, is one that's grown in Germany and in America, and there is a bit of that noble hop, kind of grassy character coming out of this one, but there's a good earthiness to it. Like I say, there's a little bit of red fruit, but mainly you can smell some of that roasted coffee. There's a bit of black malt, sweet chocolate, some kind of toasted caramel element to it. But yeah, it smells really nice. Just take a little bit of time and savour the aroma of this one before you give it a try. But it smells really nice, so just enjoy that before you get stuck in. But we'll try this beer now. So this is the Narwhal from Sierra Nevada Brewing Company over in Chico, California. Skål. Oh yeah, that's interesting because it starts off, it comes in and it attacks the tongue a little bit, and it's got a lot of sweetness to it initially. What I would say about this beer is definitely sugar it around your palate a little bit before you start to analyse the flavour too much. So let's do that now. Yeah, this one's really interesting. It's got a good balance between the bitterness of the malt base and the sweetness as well. This is a really nice beer. As you start to progress into the aftertaste, you're getting these darker and more bitter flavours out of the malt base. This is really nicely done. Yeah. So in the middle of the palate, you've got a nice base to this one. There's a little bit of an almost kind of brown, sort of pale malty character coming out of this one. It has a little bit of that bready feel to it, but on top of that, you get some of these roasted black malts. These start to become a bit more prominent as you move into the aftertaste of the beer, and you can feel these kind of coffee bean flavours as well. When you move more into the middle of the palate, you get a good chocolatey sweetness. There's also some of these toasted brown sugars coming out of this beer as well. Yeah, it's got a real, it really starts off sweet. It's got a very sweet kind of oily mouthfeel, this one. Then as it starts to move into the aftertaste, it gets more and more kind of dark and bitter, I would say. But it's really nice actually. This is, you know, it's Sierra Nevada. They're not going to produce a bad beer. Let's just put that straight out there. Really well done. But when the liquid's actually on your tongue, it feels a lot more chocolatey and caramelly. Sort of, you could be going into the kind of areas where you're getting molasses or a treacle, as we would say in Europe. You can really get that out of this one. But then as you start to progress into the aftertaste, it really goes from being sweeter into kind of a more dark and slightly more bitter beer. That's where you get these coffee flavours and the black malts coming out of this beer. There's maybe a little bit of a nuttiness to this one as you move into the aftertaste as well, near the front of the tongue. But overall, it is really nice. The back corners of the palate, you've got a good sort of earthy bitterness there, just in the very back corners of the palate. As you come further forward, it smooths out. There could be a little bit of grassiness around the front curve of the tongue, but really, it's a big earthy hop that is coming out of this beer. Really nicely done, but just pay attention behind the front curve of your tongue. That's where you get this little oily bubble, and this is where some of the fruitiness in this beer is starting to come out. Yeah, you can get a little bit of the red fruity ester coming out of this one. You can taste that there is American fruit character in there. The West Coast hops, of course, are very known for having these quite pungent fruity flavours. This beer, I guess, is quite fresh. You could age this and you'd start to get more of a red fruity ester out of this one, and it does have that already, but you can taste just a little bit of that, the kind of stronger, more pungent fruit in this one. But there is a red fruity element to it as well. If you just, as I say, if you just pay attention to that little oily bubble that comes out behind the front curve of your tongue, that's where you're going to get these sort of flavours. So there's a nice, as I say, a red fruity ester coming out of this beer. I'd say it's kind of leaning towards the plums and the raisins. It's got that slightly sharper and more oily character about it. It's not quite figgy, but it does become a little bit more figgy as you move into the aftertaste. And really, the aftertaste, it's the earthy part of the hops that's coming out. You've got the black malts and the slightly coffee-ish flavours. There's a little bit of the chocolate and stuff, but not so much of that. In the aftertaste, this beer really is earthy, some coffee black bitter malts, and then there's a little bit of that red fruity ester just sitting there at the front of the palate too. But as you would expect from Sierra Nevada, this is a really good quality beer. You wouldn't expect anything less from these guys. Yeah, really nice. But in terms of the mouthfeel of this one, I'd say it's mid-bodied. Maybe no, probably full-bodied actually. It's a big oily stout, this one. This is probably one of the thicker stouts that I've come across actually. It's got this really big, quite oily mouthfeel actually. Usually a stout is kind of creamy, but this one really leans more towards the oily side of things, I would say. Like I said at the start of the review, it starts off quite sweet and then it moves. It really starts off with a big sweet malty base, then it moves into the darker, more roasted and bitter side of things. The hoppiness has a little bit of bitterness in the back corners of the palate, but it really smooths out as you come further forward, and then there's a little red, oily bubble, just as I say, behind the front curve of the tongue, and that's where you get these nice, juicy, fruity esters coming out of this beer. But overall, it's a really damn good beer. In terms of the rating it's got on Rate Beer, you know, it deserves that. It's a very, very good stout. As I say, you wouldn't expect anything less from Sierra Nevada. For me, it's just cool to come back to this brewery and try something from them that I've never tried before. But you're never really going to find anything wrong with any beers that these guys produce. So, as I say, if you haven't tried some of the Sierra Nevada beers before, it's a brewery that you really do want to have a look at. These guys, as I say, were pioneers of the American craft beer movement. They still are, because they're still producing a lot of these different beers, and we're quite lucky in Sweden that we can get a lot of the beers that they're producing. So yeah, if you get the chance, if you enjoy an Imperial Stout, if you like one that leans more towards the sort of coffee-ish side of things and is a bit more bitter than some, this is one that you're really going to enjoy. In terms of pairing this beer with food, I guess you would say it would actually go very nicely, I think, with some vanilla ice cream and chocolate sauce. This beer is a dessert beer. It's one that you just kind of sip on and enjoy. So it's really nice in that regard. I don't know if it's intentioned as a winter seasonal or if this is just when we get it in Sweden, because it takes a few months to get here obviously, but it would be really good for that thing. This is a kind of winter warmer dessert beer. It would go really well with some ice cream, vanilla ice cream and chocolate sauce, I would say. So if you get the chance, have a go with this beer. It's highly rated for a reason, and I'm sure you will enjoy it. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'm sure we'll return to Sierra Nevada in the near future. If you have tried this beer before, do let me know your own thoughts on it in the comment section below. Always interesting to hear from you guys that are watching the videos. And until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Do check out my social media in the description below, and I'll catch you soon with new beer reviews. This one was the Narwhal from Sierra Nevada over in Chico in California. A really, really nice Imperial Stout, especially for those of you who like a sort of coffee bitterness. It's got some nice sweetness in it as well, but make sure you check out and support your local craft brewery. Slanger just now, and I'll catch you guys very soon. Cheers.